Every human being has moments when their thoughts become their biggest enemy. You wake up and before your feet even touch the ground, your mind begins to whisper reasons why you can't, why you shouldn't, why it's too late. These thoughts take root slowly, building walls inside you that no one else can see. The truth is, most of the battles you face are not against people, circumstances, or the world outside there against the voice inside your head telling you that you are not enough. It's that voice that stops you from moving forward, from believing in yourself, and from recognizing that Allah has already equipped you with everything you need to succeed. Negative thinking is powerful because it disguises itself as truth. It tells you that you're being realistic, that you're just protecting yourself from disappointment. But in reality, it steals your peace, your motivation, and your connection to Allah. When your thoughts constantly dwell on failure, on what could go wrong, or on how others are better than you, you create a world filled with fear and sadness. The mind that constantly expects failure will never see the doors that Allah is opening because it's too busy staring at the walls it built itself. You see, the words you tell yourself matter more than you realize. If you repeat to yourself every day, "I can't do this," eventually your heart will believe it. But if you begin your morning saying, "Allah is with me, I can handle this," that faith changes your energy, your decisions, and even your destiny. The heart that trusts Allah can turn even the darkest moments into opportunities for growth. You must train your mind to think in alignment with faith, not fear. When life gets difficult, negative thinking convinces you that you've been abandoned. It tells you that nothing will change, that you've failed too many times, that it's too late to start again. But remember, Allah never promised that life would be easy. He promised that He would be with you through every hardship. So when your mind says, "I can't," let your heart reply, "But Allah can." This shift in mindset is the beginning of peace. It doesn't remove the struggle, but it gives you the strength to face it. Sometimes the problem isn't what's happening around you, but how you choose to interpret it. A challenge can either be a burden or a blessing, depending on what you choose to see. You may lose something today, but perhaps Allah is preparing to give you something better tomorrow. You may face rejection, but maybe that door was never meant for you. If you could see what Allah sees, you would thank Him for the things He withheld just as much as for the things He gave. Negative thinking blinds you to that wisdom and keeps you stuck in what you think you've lost. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant will grow. If you fill it with doubt, fear, and hopelessness, you will harvest anxiety and sorrow. But if you water it with hope, patience, and faith, you will see your life blossom, even in the hardest seasons. Each time a negative thought tries to take root, replace it with something better. Say Alhamdulillah, even when things don't make sense. That one word can break the power of 1,000 worries. Gratitude opens the heart to peace in a way that negativity never can. It's not easy to control your thoughts, but it's possible with consistent effort. Start by being aware of what you're telling yourself. Notice how often you criticize, compare, or belittle your own progress. Stop giving power to those thoughts. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love, with kindness, patience, and understanding. Remind yourself that your journey is written by Allah and that every test is tailor-made to strengthen you, not break you. When you focus on your connection with Allah, negative thinking begins to lose its hold. You start realizing that your worth isn't determined by your mistakes or what people think of you. It's defined by your Creator, who still gives you another day to try again. Every sunrise is proof that Allah believes you deserve another chance. Don't waste it filling your heart with doubt. Use it to fill your soul with trust, gratitude, and determination. Surround yourself with people and environments that bring out the best in you. Listen to words that remind you of your purpose. Be around those who uplift your spirit instead of feeding your worries. The company you keep affects the way you think. When you stay close to people who remember Allah, their energy reminds you of your own faith. It keeps your mind clean, your heart soft, and your soul hopeful. And remember, negative thinking will always try to return because it's part of being human. But the difference lies in what you do with it. Do you let it stay, or do you challenge it with remembrance? Do you let it define your mood, or do you replace it with faith? Every time you choose to replace darkness with light, you take one step closer to peace. Every time you choose trust over fear, you move closer to becoming the person Allah knows you can be. Negative thinking is one of the most dangerous traps that can quietly destroy a person's peace and happiness. It sneaks into your heart in moments of weakness, whispering that you are not capable, that you are not worthy, that you are destined to fail. These thoughts might seem harmless at first, but slowly they begin to shape the way you see the world and the way you see yourself. You begin to lose confidence, stop trying, and withdraw from the blessings that Allah has placed around you. It becomes a silent prison, not built by anyone else, but by your own mind. What makes negative thinking so destructive is that it builds a wall between you and hope. When you constantly expect the worst, you close the door to faith. You stop seeing possibilities because your heart is clouded with fear. You stop dreaming because you've convinced yourself that you can't make it. This is exactly how the whispers of the devil work, not by loud temptation, but by quiet discouragement. The more you listen to those whispers, the more distant you feel from Allah's mercy, and the harder it becomes to believe in the goodness of His plan. The truth is, every person goes through moments of struggle, loss, and confusion. It's a part of life, but negative thinking convinces you that you are alone in it. It makes you forget that Allah has promised to never burden a soul beyond what it can bear. When you're trapped in negative thoughts, you see your problems as punishments, but in reality, they might be your greatest opportunities for growth. Allah's tests are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to polish your soul and strengthen your faith. The only thing that can truly defeat you is your decision to give up. Many people spend their days imagining everything that could go wrong instead of trusting that Allah can make things right. They replay their failures over and over, never realizing that this constant negativity drains their energy and blocks their blessings. A person who always expects failure is preparing themselves to fail, even when success is within reach. The heart that constantly doubts itself cannot move forward because it's chained to the fears it refuses to release. It's like walking with heavy stones tied to your feet. You will never go far until you let them go. One of the most powerful ways to fight negative thinking is through remembrance. When you fill your mind with the remembrance of Allah, there is no room left for despair. Every Subhanallah, every Alhamdulillah, and every Allahu Akbar cleanses your heart from the poison of negativity. These words are not just phrases, they are shields. They protect your heart from the lies your mind tells you. When you start remembering the blessings you already have, your focus shifts from what's missing to what's present, and peace begins to return. It's also important to be mindful of what you expose yourself to. The voices you listen to, the people you surround yourself with, the things you watch or read, they all feed your thoughts. If you constantly feed your mind with negativity, you will become a reflection of it. But if you choose to listen to uplifting reminders, to surround yourself with people who speak faith and encouragement, your mindset begins to change. Positive energy is contagious, and when you seek it sincerely, Allah brings it into your life in unexpected ways. Your thoughts have power over your emotions and actions. When you think negatively, your body responds with stress, worry, and fear. You begin to lose motivation and even the ability to see solutions clearly. But when you shift your thinking toward positivity and faith, you begin to feel calm and focused. The same situation can feel completely different depending on how you think about it. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to see Allah's wisdom in everything, even when life doesn't make sense. Negative thinking also thrives when you compare your life to others. You start to believe that everyone else is doing better, that their journey is easier, that their blessings are greater. But you never see the full picture, you only see what's on the surface. Every person has their own unseen battles. When you compare, you're not only being unfair to yourself, but also showing ingratitude for what Allah has already given you. Contentment is not found in having more. It's found in recognizing that what you have right now is exactly what you need for this moment. Changing your thoughts doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience and persistence. Every time a negative thought enters your mind, replace it with something positive. Tell yourself, I can handle this because Allah is with me. Remind yourself of the times you thought you wouldn't make it but did. Remember the prayers that were once just whispers and later became your reality. Each time you choose hope over fear, you strengthen your mind and heart. Life will continue to test you, and there will always be moments when negative thinking tries to pull you back. But the difference lies in whether you allow it to control you or you fight it with faith. Every test, every hardship, and every tear has a purpose. When you look at life through the lens of trust in Allah, even the darkest nights begin to shine with meaning. Your thoughts are the seeds of your future, so plant them with belief, water them with patience, and protect them with remembrance. Negative thinking often begins in the smallest of ways, a single doubtful thought, a quiet whisper of insecurity, a fleeting moment of fear, and before you realize it, it grows into a heavy storm inside your heart. It takes something small and magnifies it until you can no longer see the light around you. It tells you that your effort is meaningless, that your prayers are unheard, that your dreams are out of reach. It convinces you that you are stuck where you are, unable to change. Yet these are all lies that your mind repeats until you start believing them as truth, even though Allah has already promised that He is near to those who call upon Him. The danger of negative thinking is that it limits your potential before you even try. You begin to believe that you will fail before you take the first step. You tell yourself stories of defeat that have never happened. This mindset doesn't just affect your emotions, it shapes your reality. A person who believes they can never succeed will not put in the effort to succeed. And a person who believes they are unloved will fail to notice all the love surrounding them. What you feed your thoughts becomes the world you live in. And when that world is filled with negativity, even blessings start to look like burdens. Every time you choose to dwell on negativity, you give it power. You give it permission to dictate how you feel and how you live. But remember, Allah has given you control over your thoughts. You have the choice to replace fear with faith, despair with gratitude, and hopelessness with trust. When you catch yourself thinking, I can't, stop and remind your soul, Allah can. That small shift in thinking can turn your heart from panic to peace. It's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about reminding yourself that you are never facing them alone. Negative thinking thrives in moments of isolation, when you spend too much time trapped in your mind, replaying your mistakes and imagining the worst. It becomes harder to hear the whispers of hope. The mind becomes like a dark room where even a single doubt can echo endlessly. This is why staying connected through prayer, remembrance, and good company is vital. The moment you bring Allah into your thoughts, that darkness begins to fade. His remembrance fills your heart with light, reminding you that no matter how difficult the journey seems, there is always a way forward for those who trust Him. It's important to understand that your thoughts are not always facts. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. The mind can be a trickster, influenced by emotions, exhaustion, or fear. A tired heart often sees the world through the lens of fatigue. That's why in moments of weakness, instead of believing every thought that enters your mind, pause and measure it against your faith. Ask yourself, would I still think this way if I truly trusted Allah's plan? That question alone can help you break free from the chains of negativity and bring clarity where confusion once lived. Your journey in life will not be free from hardship. You will stumble, face loss, and encounter disappointment. But none of that means you are failing. It means you are human, being shaped through experience, patience, and trust. Negative thinking tries to convince you that pain is a sign of punishment, when in reality, it can be a form of purification. The storms you face may not destroy you. They may be washing away the things that no longer serve your soul. When you change how you think about hardship, it begins to change what that hardship means to you. The company you keep also plays a powerful role in shaping your mindset. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, compare, or criticize, it becomes almost impossible to think positively. But when you spend time with those who remind you of Allah, who speak hope, and who encourage you to rise when you fall, their light becomes contagious. Seek out gatherings of remembrance, listen to words that uplift your heart, and fill your environment with positivity. The right company can transform your perspective and help you see blessings even in trials. Gratitude is one of the strongest shields against negative thinking. When you train yourself to focus on what you have instead of what you lack, your mind becomes a place of peace. Start small, notice the breath in your lungs, the food on your table, the people who care for you, the prayers that were answered in silence. Every Alhamdulillah builds a wall against despair. Even in moments when things seem unbearable, there is always something to be thankful for. Gratitude doesn't remove problems, but it reminds you that Allah's mercy is always greater than your pain. Sometimes negative thinking disguises itself as humility. You might tell yourself that you don't deserve success, that you shouldn't dream too big, that you're being modest by lowering your expectations. But true humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's knowing that whatever strength you have comes from Allah. It's realizing that He wouldn't have placed a dream in your heart if He didn't also give you the ability to achieve it. Believing in your potential is not arrogance, it's an act of faith. It's trusting that Allah does not create mistakes, and that includes you. Each time you challenge your negative thoughts, you strengthen your heart. You begin to replace fear with calmness, despair with hope, and weakness with resilience. The mind that once held you captive slowly becomes your ally. You learn to pause before reacting, to pray before worrying, and to trust before doubting. The shift doesn't happen all at once, but every small victory over a negative thought brings you closer to peace. The change begins quietly within your heart and eventually reflects in the way you live, the way you speak, and the way you see the world around you. Sometimes we underestimate how deeply our thoughts affect our hearts. The way we think shapes the way we live. A single negative thought can turn a small challenge into a mountain, a minor setback into a deep wound. Negative thinking grows quietly, feeding on doubt and fear until it becomes a habit. You start to see everything through a dark lens, people, situations, even your own self. It makes you focus on what's wrong rather than what's right, on what's missing rather than what's present. It convinces you that nothing will ever change, even when change is already happening. Negative thinking doesn't only steal your happiness, it weakens your connection with Allah. When you constantly expect the worst, you are indirectly doubting the mercy and wisdom of the one who created you. You start questioning your worth, your purpose, and your path, forgetting that every single thing in your life is unfolding according to divine timing. The heart that is filled with negativity forgets to see how perfectly Allah plans everything, even when you don't understand it. What looks like a delay to you might actually be protection. What feels like a loss might be the beginning of something greater. Many people live their lives trapped in their own minds, believing every fearful thought that crosses their hearts. They replay past mistakes again and again, as if punishing themselves will somehow make them better. But the more you focus on what went wrong, the more you miss what's going right. Allah's mercy is vast, yet negative thinking makes it seem distant. It makes you forget that you have been forgiven before, that you have been lifted before, that you have survived every hardship before this one. Each time you overcome something, it is proof that Allah never left you. Your thoughts are powerful because they shape your emotions, your words, and your actions. When you think negatively, you start speaking in defeat. You begin saying things like "I can't," "I'll never," or "it's too late," and soon your life begins to follow those words. The opposite is also true. When you start replacing negative self-talk with hope, when you say "Inshallah I will," or "Allah will make a way," you open the door to blessings. It's not just positive thinking, it's faith in action. The more you remind yourself that Allah is capable of all things, the more peace begins to take root in your heart. One of the greatest dangers of negative thinking is that it disconnects you from gratitude. You begin to take your blessings for granted because your eyes are always fixed on what's missing. You forget the food on your table, the roof above your head, the people who love you, and the countless unseen protections Allah gives you daily. Gratitude and negativity cannot live in the same heart. When you choose one, the other leaves. So every time a negative thought arises, fight it with thankfulness. Say Alhamdulillah, even for the smallest things, because those small things are often the greatest gifts. It's also easy to become consumed by comparing yourself to others. You see their achievements, their happiness, and their success, and you begin to feel like you're behind. This comparison breeds negativity faster than anything else. What you don't see are their struggles, their silent prayers, and the difficulties they hide behind smiles. Allah's plan for you is not the same as His plan for them. Every soul has its own path, its own timing, its own tests. The moment you stop comparing, your heart begins to rest. You realize that where you are now is exactly where Allah needs you to be for your growth. Negative thinking also grows stronger when you isolate yourself from positivity. When you constantly surround yourself with complaints, gossip, and pessimism, it becomes harder to see good in anything. But when you fill your environment with dhikr, with the recitation of Quran, with reminders that lift your soul, your mindset begins to shift. The light of remembrance drives out the darkness of doubt. Every time you sit in gatherings that remind you of Allah, it's like fresh air for your heart. It clears away the dust of despair and fills you with clarity. Your mind will always try to protect you from pain, and sometimes that's why it becomes negative. It wants to prepare you for disappointment. But true strength is not in expecting the worst. It's in trusting that whatever happens, you will handle it with faith. It's in saying, even if it doesn't go as I planned, I know Allah's plan is better. This kind of mindset doesn't remove the challenges, but it removes the fear that comes with them. You begin to live with calmness, knowing that Allah's wisdom is greater than your worry. Training your mind to think positively is an act of worship. Every time you choose trust over fear, you are performing a form of submission. You are acknowledging that you don't control outcomes, Allah does. And that realization brings peace. When your mind tells you that things are falling apart, remind yourself that perhaps they are falling into place in a way only Allah can see. Replace "why me" with "what can I learn from this?" and suddenly even your pain starts to make sense. The truth is, the world will always test you, but your reaction to those tests is what defines you. You can let negativity turn you bitter, or you can let faith turn you stronger. You can either drown in your doubts or rise with your trust. Every day, you are given the chance to choose which voice you listen to, the one that says, "You can't," or the one that says, "With Allah, you can." The more you strengthen the latter, the quieter the first one becomes. And in that quiet, you begin to find something that negative thinking can never offer: peace. Negative thinking is one of the most silent destroyers of inner peace. It begins with a single thought, one moment of doubt, one flicker of insecurity, one memory of failure, and slowly begins to take control. It clouds your heart with fear, blinds you to blessings, and weakens your faith in yourself and in Allah's mercy. When you keep feeding your mind with negativity, it starts to define who you are. You begin to see yourself through the lens of your mistakes instead of your potential. It convinces you that your past defines your future, that your pain will never end, and that your situation is hopeless, even though Allah has already promised that with hardship comes ease. A person trapped in negative thinking lives in a world of endless what-ifs. What if I fail? What if things never change? What if I'm not good enough? These questions do not come from faith, they come from fear. They keep you stuck in the same place, unable to move forward. The moment you begin to trust that Allah's plan is greater than your worries, your heart begins to lighten. The trials you face are not punishments, they are lessons, carefully written to bring you closer to your Creator. Every hardship has a hidden mercy, and every closed door has a reason behind it. Negative thinking blinds you from seeing that mercy, while faith helps you recognize it even in the midst of pain. When your mind constantly focuses on the negative, even blessings begin to feel like burdens. You start to overlook the small gifts that fill your life every single day. You forget the breath in your lungs, the shelter over your head, the people who care about you, and the countless times Allah protected you without you even realizing it. Gratitude and negativity cannot coexist. One always drives out the other. The more you say Alhamdulillah, the less room negativity has to live in your heart. Gratitude is not about having a perfect life. It's about seeing perfection in the life Allah has already given you. Negative thinking is also a form of self-sabotage. When you tell yourself that you can't do something, you stop trying. You stop taking the steps that could lead to change. It becomes a cycle. You doubt, you hesitate, you fail to act, and then you use that as proof that your negative thoughts were right. The truth is, your thoughts are not always facts. Just because your mind tells you something doesn't make it true. You must challenge your own thoughts. Every time you hear yourself saying, I can't, replace it with, I can if Allah wills. That single change in language turns weakness into strength and fear into reliance. Another way negative thinking grows stronger is through comparison. When you constantly look at others, you begin to measure your worth by what they have. You start to believe that success belongs to them and not to you. You forget that everyone is walking a different path, with different tests, timings, and blessings. What Allah has written for you will reach you, no matter who stands in your way. The moment you stop comparing yourself to others, your heart begins to rest. Contentment blooms when you realize that your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. It's designed uniquely for you. Your environment has a powerful impact on your thoughts. If you are surrounded by negativity, constant complaints, gossip, or hopelessness, your heart begins to absorb it. You start thinking in the same patterns without even noticing. But when you surround yourself with those who remember Allah, who speak words of encouragement, who uplift rather than discourage, you begin to see your own life differently. Good company nourishes the soul. The people who remind you of Allah during difficult times are blessings that keep your heart grounded and your thoughts pure. Negative thinking is also strengthened by fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. But faith and fear cannot live in the same place. The moment you choose to trust Allah fully, fear begins to fade. When you truly believe that Allah's plan is better than your own, you stop worrying about what's next and start living in the peace of the present. The Prophet they taught us that whatever was meant for you will never miss you, and whatever missed you was never meant for you. When you internalize that truth, there's no room left for negativity, because everything that happens becomes a part of divine wisdom. Learning to control your thoughts is a daily practice. It's not something that happens overnight, but something you must nurture with patience. Every time a negative thought enters your mind, confront it with remembrance. Say, Hasbun Allahu wa ni'mal wakil, Allah is sufficient for me, and He is the best disposer of affairs. Each repetition builds strength within you, reminding your heart of where your true reliance lies. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes to respond to fear with faith instead of panic. You must also be kind to yourself in the process. Many people think negatively because they expect perfection. They blame themselves for every mistake, forgetting that Allah is Al-Ghafur, the most forgiving. He doesn't expect perfection, He expects effort. Each day that you wake up and try again, even after falling, is a victory. The world may not see your small steps, but Allah does, and He rewards them generously. So speak gently to yourself. Encourage your own soul the way you would comfort a friend. You deserve the same compassion that you give to others. Every thought you think is a seed you plant in your heart. If you plant doubt, you'll grow despair. But if you plant hope, patience, and trust, you'll grow peace. The more you nurture your mind with faith, the stronger you become against the whispers of negativity. You begin to see trials as temporary, not permanent, as lessons, not punishments. You begin to wake up with purpose, knowing that no matter how difficult things seem, Allah's mercy is always near. Your mindset becomes your shield, protecting your heart from the storms that once controlled it. Faith has the power to completely transform the way a person thinks and lives. When the heart is connected to Allah, there is no space for despair, fear, or negativity to take control. But when that connection weakens, negative thinking creeps in quietly, filling the heart with doubt. It makes you question your worth, your purpose, and even your hope for tomorrow. It convinces you that things will never get better and that you are trapped in your pain. But the truth is, every negative thought is just a shadow that disappears the moment light enters. And the greatest light you can ever bring into your life is faith, a faith that Allah never leaves you even for a moment. When your heart remembers Allah, you begin to see life differently. Problems don't seem as big, pain doesn't feel as endless, and the future doesn't look as frightening. The remembrance of Allah softens the heart and clears the fog of negativity. It reminds you that everything you face is already known by the one who created you, and that every hardship you go through is measured with divine wisdom. A person who keeps Allah in their thoughts will always find a way forward, even when the world says there isn't one. It's not that life suddenly becomes easy, but your mindset changes. You start seeing tests as opportunities, not punishments. Negative thinking thrives when faith is weak. It takes advantage of every moment you forget the power of Allah's mercy. It tells you that your mistakes define you, that your prayers are not being heard, and that your efforts are useless. But the heart that believes in Allah knows that none of those lies are true. The Almighty listens to every prayer, even the ones whispered in tears. He accepts every effort, even the smallest one done with sincerity. When you truly believe that Allah is on your side, negativity begins to lose its power. You realize that no matter how dark the night seems, the one who created the sun will always bring light again. Faith doesn't remove pain, but it gives meaning to it. When something difficult happens, a person without faith sees only loss, but a person with faith sees growth. They understand that behind every hardship is a lesson, a purification, or a hidden blessing. Faith allows you to breathe even when things don't make sense, because you trust that Allah's plan is greater than your understanding. Negative thinking focuses on what went wrong. Faith focuses on what can go right when you rely on Allah. It turns your attention from the problem to the solution, from fear to patience, from doubt to trust. A believer learns to speak differently as well. The language of negativity is filled with words like I can't, I'll never, and it's impossible. But the language of faith is filled with words like Inshallah, I will try, and Allah will make a way. Your words have power, and they reflect what's inside your heart. The more you speak with faith, the stronger your belief becomes. Every time you choose to replace a negative word with one of hope, you are strengthening your connection with Allah and teaching your heart to depend on Him completely. The heart that is filled with remembrance cannot be overcome by darkness. Every Subhan Allah and Alhamdulillah, adds light to your soul, pushing away the shadows of despair. Dhikr is not only a form of worship, it's medicine for the mind. It brings calm to chaos, clarity to confusion, and strength to weakness. When you keep Allah's name on your tongue, your heart stays awake. Negative thoughts may try to enter, but they find no room to stay. The constant remembrance of Allah cleanses the mind from doubt and fills it with peace that cannot be shaken by worldly troubles. Faith also teaches you to trust the timing of Allah. Many times negative thinking comes from impatience, from wanting things to happen quickly, from feeling that Allah is not responding soon enough. But every delay has purpose. What you see as silence may actually be preparation. Faith helps you understand that Allah's plan unfolds at the perfect moment, even when you can't see it yet. Trusting His timing allows you to rest, to stop overthinking, and to stop chasing what's not meant for you. What is written for you will reach you when it's supposed to, and no amount of worry will make it come sooner. Even in moments when you fall, faith lifts you up. Negative thinking says you've failed, but faith says try again. Allah is most forgiving. Every mistake becomes a chance for repentance, every weakness a chance for prayer, and every setback a reminder of how much you need your Creator. When your faith becomes your foundation, no negative thought can destroy you. You may stumble, but you won't stay down, because you know that Allah's mercy is always greater than your sins, and that His help is always closer than you imagine. The heart that trusts Allah begins to find beauty in every situation. You start to notice the lessons in your pain, the wisdom in your delays, and the mercy in your struggles. Faith allows you to see blessings in disguise, the ones you would have missed if you were only focused on what's wrong. Even when you don't get what you want, you begin to thank Allah for saving you from what wasn't meant for you. This level of trust replaces worry with peace, because you no longer fight life. You surrender to it knowing it's all under divine control. When you live with faith, negativity loses its voice, fear becomes smaller, patience grows stronger, and your heart feels lighter. You begin to live in a state of calm awareness that everything is happening for a reason. The whispers of doubt still come, but they no longer shake you. You learn to silence them with remembrance, to answer them with gratitude, and to replace them with trust. Every thought becomes an opportunity to draw closer to Allah, to prove your reliance, and to strengthen your peace from within.